sort of what that really means and what that should look like. And so I put together something for you that I hope you'll like it. It's kind of like I think an interesting way to kind of express this underlying sentiment. And but before really get to that, actually, I want to first off read a B1 story. I got a B1 story sent in, and also I want to welcome Chanel. Chanel's in the chat. And so if you want to join us for the next coin cohort, Chanel can get you a discount for that. Or if you want to apply for the mastermind, she can hook you up with that. If you have a question about anything related to your membership in the Black Business School, Chanel can take care of that for you. And so she's in the chat, so feel free to chat it up with her. And so anyway, here's what I wanted to. First off, I want to share with you the first B1 story comes from Dolores Render. And she says, I am starting with you tomorrow for the $89 a month. Okay, I'm not sure. I guess that might be maybe the stock market class or something like that, drboystockmarket.com. And I welcome you. I can't wait to see you in class. She says, but what I've listened to you thus far, I love it. I got my brokerage account from Charles Schwab and put $600 in it, just waiting to start. Good. I like Schwab. I actually have a Schwab account. Schwab, I've been investing with Schwab consistently for a while. We have a couple of family trusts in Schwab as well as investing under the LLC, right? So the reason that you invest under your LLC, if you get when you get a chance to do that, is because you can write off your losses at a deeper level. If you ever want to know how rich people get away with not paying taxes, well, that's how they get away with not paying taxes. They invest in, and when they have losses that are really big, they can write off all of it. Whereas working class people, for whatever reason, can only write off a certain amount. There's a limitation to that, and I don't like those rules. I'm just telling you how those rules work, so you can make sure they work in your favor. So anyway, with that being said, congratulations to you, Mr. See, in Dolores, I'm not gonna say her. She asked me to keep it anonymous. I need to start looking at that, and I'm so sorry. So now I gotta stop talking because I keep messing it up. So I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to blow up your spot, but congratulations to you on moving forward with your investing journey. I know she's got family and she's investing for her kids and everything else, and that's exactly what we're supposed to do. Now, the next B1 story, and I'm gonna get this right because I done messed up twice. This is another one, and this person also says keep their name anonymous, so I'm gonna do right by this time around because I didn't mean to mess that up. She says the Black Business School suggested stocks that I invest in, and I made some money. I bought the financial flashcards for my grandson, and he's learning about finances. So two things I want to mention on that is one, yeah, we all know, everybody in here knows, I assume. Give me a yes if you know the stock market is the number one wealth generator on the planet. Put a yes in the chat to so that because we're smarter than everybody else. Be it the B1 community is anyway. I'd see you guys as canaries in the mine. So give me a yes if you know this. That literally anybody who ever says, "Well, I want to make money," then you say, "Well, where are you going to get money from?" And they say, "From my job." You can say, yeah, you can get some money from your job. Your job will give you an income. It allows you to liquidate an asset. And the asset, unfortunately, the problem is that you are the asset. When it comes to your job, you are the asset that's being liquidated. And you don't want to spend your whole life being liquidated because then you end up just just dying at your desk and working your whole entire life. At some point, you want to have assets that are working for you, and so the stock market is the number one vehicle through which people are able to do that. And it's very important that everyone knows this, right? So, participating in the stock market is the first step toward building generational wealth. In fact, if I could go back in time, which I'm actually, believe it or not, I built a time machine last night, and I'm going to go back in time to visit the ancestors in 1945, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in a minute. If I could build a time machine, I would talk our ancestors into taking the Warren Buffett approach to building wealth. Warren Buffett invested something like $142, or maybe it was like $150 in 1942, and he just let the money grow. He hasn't touched it. And believe it or not, by the year 2030, that $142 is going to be $6 million. $6 million. $142 or 150, whatever that number was. It was less than $200. Is going to be $6 million. It's crazy, right? You're like, wait, how in the hell can that happen? That's not possible. That's not possible. Well, that's the magic of compound interest. That's what compound interest does, and it blows away. Even Albert Einstein said, "I'm shocked by compound interest." He said that's the eighth wonder of the world. He said that's more shocking to me than the laws of whatever E equals MC squared and all this other stuff he came up with. He said that's more fascinating to me than space time is compound interest because he couldn't believe how money could grow so fast if you're consistent as an investor. So literally, if your great great grandparent could have come up with 150 bucks, or your family could have came up with 150 bucks in 1942, and just plop that money into an account and let it sit. Just let it sit. Just sat down, and I'm sure there was somebody, a predecessor to me, maybe somebody, maybe Dr. Claude Anderson's daddy in 1942, who could have told them these things. Then that money could have grown to $6 million for the family. Now, give me a yes or no. It's 6 million. Some people will say, well, $6 million in the future ain't gonna be what $6 million is now. 2030 is 5 years from now. Give me a yes if you agree. Would you say that having $6 million in your family trust 5 years from now would make you kind of a rich person? You wouldn't have no private jet or nothing, but would you agree that at least 4 or 5 relatives could probably quit their jobs if you properly manage the 6 million, right? 6 million would make a difference, right? So ultimately, if you add up the amount of money that Black people spent back when they were lying to us and telling us that Black consumerism was some sort of beacon of strength and hope and possibilities. Back when they made us brag about being consumers, they made us want to be consumers. Well, if you take all that money that we spent being consumers and just took like 10% of the money we spent as consumers, 10%, I'm not talking about all of it, I'm talking about 10% of the money we spent as consumers, and we made that money and flipped it into becoming investors, and we stuck with our investments, just like my grandparents stuck with their 50, 60-year marriage, right? Then guess what? You marry the game, you marry the wealth, you marry the progress, you marry the process. Then at some point you would see a massive fortune that builds from that. Just like when I was sitting by my mother's deathbed, and you're sitting there trying to find something positive to talk about. One of the things we could talk about is the fact that my parents limped, they literally limped across their 50th wedding anniversary, but they built this 50-year asset called family, called wealth, called love, called marriage, and they made it. They got there. I said, wow, that's so impressive, and I feel so blessed that you had your 50th wedding anniversary literally a month before my mother passed, and my father was right by her bed right when she passed. Right. So that's, to me, that's very powerful. That's that same dignity, that same commitment, that same consistency, that same relentlessness that led to my father insisting on being by my mother's side all the way until her last moments is similar to the kind of consistency, relentlessness, and commitment that is necessary to acquire an asset and hold on to the asset. That means ups and downs, richer for poor, sickness and in health. So you build that stock portfolio, you hold on to that damn thing. You buy that real estate, you fight for that real estate. If you watch shows like Landman or watch these Taylor Sheridan shows, or the other one with Kevin Costner, can't remember his name. But anyway, if you watch these shows, you'll see much of these shows. Watch these shows carefully. Most of Yellowstone, thank you, Candace. I appreciate it. I couldn't remember the name of the show. I loved it though. These shows, what are they? These shows are all about money. It's all about fighting to maintain ownership of your asset. Am I lying? It's about money and family. Bam. That's it. Money and family. Money, family, money, family, investment, asset, acquisition, control. Everything's like pulling out shotguns, defending your land. Like literally the whole damn show ain't nothing but a finance class. It's like, okay, we got this land. Don't you give these sons of bitches 1 square inch of the land, right? And so in those shows, asset protection is a lot deeper than just diversification or insurance policies. Sometimes you had to go and pop a cap in somebody's ass to keep them from taking your stuff, right? So this is, and you had ancestors that had that level of resilience, and sometimes you don't win every battle. And this is why reparations is something that I'm always going to advocate for, because they did come in and they would bend the laws and kill everybody and lock up the person who owns the property. This happened in my own family. When I did my genealogy research, I had an assistant who was really into that, and she said, "Yeah, you had a great 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 uncle who owned the entire town, and they basically killed him and took everything." I said, "Really? Well, that kind of makes me mad, right?" And then you had another great great uncle who was who or a white man stepped on his wife's toe when she was pregnant in Alabama, and he stood up to the white man and he beat him up for stepping on his wife's toe and being disrespectful. And then they came and they lynched him and killed him and took all this stuff, right? So these things happen. These things happened, right? And so the reality is that whatever you acquire, somebody's in many cases is going to try to come take it. And while you can't always win every battle, you got to at least be prepared to fight, right? And that's what these shows kind of discuss. And I think that that's great. I think if you listen for the money, listen for the finances, you'll find that probably about at least 60% of the scenes in the show Landman or shows like Yellowstone, 60% at least of the conversations are about money, investing, and wealth protection. Okay, all right. So let me finish reading this B1 story. Let's see. Okay, so the BBS has suggested stocks that I've invested in and I made some money. I think that's good. But remember, don't get your hopes up too high, meaning that just because you bought a good stock, that doesn't mean you're going to make money in the first 6 months or even the first year, right? You made a good investment. Sometimes a good investment might look like a bad investment for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? And Warren Buffett says if you're not prepared to own a stock for 10 years, you shouldn't own it for 10 minutes. So you might have got lucky. You might have bought it on Tuesday and made money on Thursday. God bless you for that. But the biggest mistake people make a lot of times is they think that investing is a get rich quick scenario. They look at it like the casino, like I'm gonna do a quick flip. I'm gonna put in 1,000, turn it into 2,000 in a week. There are ways to get income at a faster rate, but it typically is not something that you can automatically expect from the stock market. So just be mindful of that. I'm glad you made money, but just when that happens, just know that you could have also lost or appeared to lose money. That you didn't remember. You don't lose money until you quit. You don't lose money until you sell, right? So if I own land and the value of my land drops in the first few years, I didn't lose any money because I didn't sell anything. That's the difference between a realized loss and an unrealized loss. It's like the difference between being behind in a basketball game versus losing the basketball game. If you ask any coach, which is worse, to be behind in a game or to lose a game? Well, you know what the answer is going to be. They losing the game, it means your loss is permanent. It is etched in stone. It's part of the historical record. Being behind in the game, well, that means you still got hope. So assets, part of the reason that stocks have things like stock options attached to them that you can actually sell and make money from, which I encourage you to look into because it's a great way to make cash, is because there's hope attached to the stock. That stock might have dipped a little, but there's always that chance that it's going to make a comeback. That's why somebody's always out there willing to buy. If the hope did not exist, then nobody would buy the asset. People buy the asset because there's hope that the asset's going to go up in value. And they call that optionality. The optionality and the potential of the asset is just as valuable as the asset itself sometimes. That's why you can sell stock options, right? So anyway, if you want to learn to sell stock options and join us in class, two things. One, Chanel has a link if you want to join COIN, Certified Options Investing Network. We're going to start January 8th. We're going to go 6 weeks. We're going to cover options from A to Z. And also on January 10th, I'm going to hold a 2-day stock options summit online. We did a stock options summit about a year and a half ago. It was live and in person in LA, and I know hundreds of you came out for that. We called it SOS, Stock Options Summit. And so we have something called the SOSO, Stock Options Summit Online. So we're going to do January 10th. We're going to do the Stock Options Summit. And actually, I have a code that takes 48% off the fee. So to reserve your spot, and all the materials are yours for life, and you can bring your whole family with one pass. It's going to be a weekend event on January 10th and 11th. It's going to be all online. It'll be me. I'll be doing the teaching the whole weekend, and we're going to meet Saturday from 11 to 3:30. And then also Sunday from 11 to 3:30. So we're going to meet 2 days in a row. And so the fee is $199, but here's a coupon code where you can actually get 48% off. So feel free to take advantage of that. And that's going to be a lot of fun, as a lot of our events are. You guys have probably attended some stuff before, and I think you guys are going to like it. So here is the link. I'm going to put that in the comments right here, so you guys can feel free to take advantage of that as well. All right, so let's do a digital field trip, and let's go. We're gonna do a little bit of time traveling, and I want to show you all this. I'm kind of itching to show you this. And by the way, if you don't see the link, I'm also going to text it out to you. So make sure you're on the text list for class. You can get on the text list by texting the word morning to the number 87948. So text morning to 87948. All right. So sometimes my computer's a little bit slow. That's why I'm talking slowly. So forgive me for that. All right. So here is Something that I did last night when I was sitting there with my wife. I told you we were like a couple of crazy frat boys last night. She's not a boy though. She's the opposite of a boy. And we were just literally, I said, you know what? I normally get up at 5 in the morning and go running. And I said, tonight, let's just I ate ice cream at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's how crazy I was. That's just wild, just crazy, just wild out of my mind. Right? I ate ice cream. We watched Landman. We watched SNL with the old Eddie Murphy stuff, and we were just up. And I said, oh my gosh, this is crazy. We haven't done this since college. But anyway, so here's one thing that I did is I decided to have some fun. Because as you know, I think AI is so much fun. I think it's fun to know it, and I think it's fun to own it. So you know the word. The word is known. We've known AI. You don't just know it. You want to know it, and you want to own it. So if you want to list of my AI stocks, I sent that out to you via text. I can get that for you again. All right. So here is something. I did something where I said, what if I went back in time and spoke to the ancestors and talked to them about generational wealth and let them know what the future holds if they don't make a move, right? So here's me traveling back in time. True story. Haters are gonna say this is AI. But you know, this is I really did build a time machine, and there really is an alternate timeline where the ancestors all start investing and they make sure that we have millions of dollars in the bank now. So I decided to go into a barbershop. That's me walking through the time portal. Can y'all see that? Let me know if you can see that. And also, let me know when I started if you can hear the audio. Give me a quick yes. Let me know you can see that because I'm sharing my screen. I just want to make sure you guys can see it. All right, there we go. Okay, thank you, Cass and Lady Emma and Sherry. All right, so here it goes. All right, here it goes. All right, don't. If you don't like it, just pretend like you do because it's gonna hurt my feelings. All right, so here we go.
That brother ain't from here.
He said he's from 2025.
I'm from 2025, and trust me, you don't want to make the mistakes we did.
What mistakes?
Debt replaces chains, rent replaces ownership, and most people never see it coming. You're the one who listened.
Man, you crazy. You ain't from the future.
In 1968, the city burns. In 2001, towers fall. In 2008, banks collapse. In 2020, the world shuts down. And in 2025, most people are still Communities that didn't prepare lost their homes, their businesses, and their children paid the price. I don't have much time, but this is the moment that decides everything.
Yeah. All right, what do you think? What do you think? Did I do okay? Did it work? Did it work? Did you get the point? What do y'all think? How did it go? How did it go? Okay, okay. All right. So I'm gonna play one more time in case you were so shocked. Just for those who might have missed it, or if you want to see it again. It's on my Instagram, by the way. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. You can go in and join the conversation. It looks like a few people were discussing it this morning. And the broader point that I wanted to make, just in a kind of a fun way, is what if we could go back in time? And what if we could go back in time and have a conversation with our ancestors and say, look, our community is going to choose a path, and it's not even going to be our path. It's going to be a path that somebody chose for us, and we're going to listen to those people. They're going to appoint these fake leaders that are going to feed us a bunch of nonsense and have us going in a direction that's going to have us looking blind, deaf, dumb, crippled, and crazy, and we're not going to be empowered. Here it is 1945. Our home ownership rate will not go up. It's going to be about the same as it is right now. Our wealth is not going to go up, right? We're not going to feel any freer in 2025 than we feel right now. We're going to trade our land and businesses for student loans and corporate jobs, right? And in my view, it's like if I could go back in time and just tap every person in here, every person's great grandparent, and say, look, just take a couple pennies and just invest with those pennies, like whatever you got, wherever you stand, just a little bit of your money, just put some aside for the future. That's going to make a massive difference. And literally, if a person in 1945 was investing $1 a month or $1 a week or whatever, like that would turn into an insane amount of money now, believe it or not. It's crazy because they have the power of time, right? So my job was to go back in time and create an alternate timeline where the ancestors did get a chance to hear this and they listened. And but it's all dramatic, right? It's like I'm from 2025. So it's kind of, like I don't know, I'm kind of excited because I don't know, I don't see myself as a filmmaker or anything, but I might do more of this if you like it. All right, so I'll play it one more time for those of you that missed it, and then, but I want you to get the lesson too. It's not just I'm not up here trying to be Cedric the Entertainer. All right, so here we go. So, who, by the way, Cedric the Entertainer endorsed the All Black National Convention a few years ago. So shout out to Cedric the Entertainer. All right, so here we go. Let's play it again. So this is me coming through the time portal. All right, I'll play it one more time. But think about the lesson that's here. Think about what this means. And imagine if somebody came from the year 2075 or 2085 and was talking to you about the future. Like, what would you do? Let's play it.
That brother ain't from here.
He said he's from 2025.
I'm from 2025, and trust me, you don't want to make the mistakes we did.
What mistakes?
Debt replaces chains, rent replaces ownership, and most people never see it coming. You're the one who listened.
Man, you crazy. You ain't from the future.
In 1968, the city burns. In 2001, towers fall. In 2008, banks collapse. In 2020, the world shuts down. And in 2025, most people are still Communities that didn't prepare lost their homes, their businesses, and their children paid the price. I don't have much time, but this is the moment that decides everything.
Okay. All right. So you know what that it's weird. So I was sitting there, I was watching this, and I was thinking about my grandparents, right? And and I don't know if something, and I don't know, I got a little choked up at the end. It's like the thing is pulling them in. It's kind of so dramatic. And I was thinking about my grandparents. And does anybody how many of you have a grandparent that lost their home? Like maybe due to predatory lending, or maybe somebody sold an asset because they were dealing with a temporary financial problem, or somebody died and nobody took the time to make a will or a trust. And so you didn't just lose money, you lost relationships because of it. Like you have siblings that haven't spoken to each other in 10 or 15 years because of it, right? Like I thought about that. I was thinking about just like I think my grandparents got married in the 1940s, early 1950s. And I think it was early like two or something like that. And they moved into this neighborhood where they were the first black people to move into a white neighborhood, and on the west end of Louisville, Kentucky, and they lived in that house from maybe let's say 1962 until 2002. A lot of equity got built. The neighborhood changed, of course, like a lot of neighborhoods. It became a black neighborhood over time, and now, unfortunately, the neighborhood's gotten pretty bad, but now it's being gentrified. And so my grandfather was, as a senior citizen, he got locked into a predatory loan, and he couldn't pay the loan back, so they took the house. And I remember how much work it took to move. I mean, it takes a lot of work to move out of a house that's been lived in for 40 years. Just going through the basement and all the stuff that's in there, just all the not just the memories, but just that the house is almost like a living soul. You know what I mean? Like it's just infused with the DNA of a thousand Christmases and a thousand heartbreaks and childbirths and everything that happened over those years. Multiple generations came up in that house, and here we were having to pack it all up and move out because of something that happened with a bank loan. And so many other families went through that. So many other families have lost property and businesses and things like that. And so I looked up my grandmother's house. I'm intrigued with both of my grandmother's houses because my other grandmother on my mother's side, the one who's the Panther that you see, Felicia, her house. She moved into her house in 1968 and was there probably until about 1980, 88, maybe 20 years. And I grew up in that house. So I'm intrigued with both of those houses. And I literally looked them up because I thought about buying them just because I know with my parents' house, I'm not ever selling that, right? I'm connected in that way. And I saw my grandmother's house on my father's side. And basically these this company came along and gentrified it. and it looked completely different from what it looked like all those years. And so there was almost like the house, the soul of the house was gone. It was just this clean little house that had where everything was nice and neat and different because they'd gone through and just kind of gutted it and changed everything. And so people would move in the house. They don't know how deep and rich the soul and the memories of that house actually are. And I think that they probably increased the value of the home maybe to double what it was when we had to move my grandparents out. So this happens, thousands of times across the country, and to the tune of trillions and trillions of dollars in lost black wealth, right? If you wonder where your wealth comes from, or where your wealth disappeared to, I encourage you to consider the fact that a lot of us have to go back to work and make money because so much money was given away to white people already. You gave it away to somebody else. Somebody received it because they didn't prepare. So when I was mentioning, so in the video, there's a part where I say families that didn't prepare lost their homes, they lost their businesses. A lot of maintaining ownership of an asset really comes down to preparation. It comes down to the boring things like the insurance policies or the estate planning and all. And it's not fun. It's not the sexy part of wealth. It's not the flashy part of wealth. It's not the part that rappers are going to rap about. You ain't never heard a rapper rap about an insurance policy, but rappers should all be rapping about insurance policies because lots of them have lost millions of dollars in lawsuits because somebody got shot at a club, or Nicki Minaj is losing her house right now. I think I told you all that because she had a boyfriend that decided he wanted to punch somebody in Europe, and the man has been pursuing them in a lawsuit for the last several years. And she's not the only one though. There are other rappers that, because the rap lifestyle is all into fighting and violence and gangster stuff, and all these things are destructive to wealth. They're very destructive to wealth, and that becomes the paradox of hip hop culture, is that it makes a lot of money but it doesn't build a lot of wealth. The only people that it builds wealth for are the people that are able to pick up the pieces after you've destroyed everything. So it does build wealth for people that are sort of controlling the chaos. Like a dog fight, if you have a cage where you've have dog fights, there's no dog that benefits from dog fighting for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Like he's gonna be mauled and mangled and eaten up and sick and injured and everything else, right? The dogs don't benefit from the dog fight, but the man who owns the cage can make a lot of money from dog fighting because the dogs are disposable. So when I look at hip hop, I see it like a dog cage fight. Rappers die at 23, 24, 25 years old all the time. So they don't typically get the generational wealth that comes from hip hop. It's usually the people that own the record labels that manage the dog cage that end up making the most money. And so really the same thing is true in so many other levels where you've got people that are playing chess in the economic system and those who are playing checkers. And I'm not saying you should go out and manage a bunch of rappers. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that if you don't understand these things, then what happens is you find yourself sacrificing the most and receiving the least. Workers in America sacrifice the most. Workers in America make the country move. People that get up and go to work every day, without them, we couldn't have the country that we have. But what tends to happen is that wealth is like heat. It kind of, how heat goes, heat sort of goes to the top. Wealth kind of goes to the top. If you watch a show like Landman, which is a great economic lesson, you'll see that there's like different tiers of society. You've got the working class, which is the guys who go get on the oil rigs, who are getting mangled and going blind and from gas leaks and everything else and blowing up in explosions. And then you got the management class, which Billy Bob Thornton's character plays the management class, who are kind of overseeing the workers. And then you've got the ownership class. The ownership class, what they do is, it's not to say that they do nothing, but what they do is very different and is much safer. So the ownership class, their job is to just manage things and move people around like chess pieces. They might decide to go drill an oil rig, but never actually go visit the rig. But they do have the difficult task of going out and getting the financing to go drill the rig. So it's not to say, don't ever get to the point where you think rich people all have it easy, because that's not true. Rich people problems can be really difficult as well. But I personally will say for sure, 9 times out of 10, it's better to be out solving rich people problems than it is to solve poor people problems. But the thing about rich people problems is that when you're working your way up to become a rich person, you have things that happen along the way that are really difficult. Like it's really hard to have a business where you work the hardest. You're working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you lost money. Everybody else got paid, right? All the workers, they come in and they say, "Hey, I worked my 40 hours. Where's my money?" They don't care about the risk. They don't care if if you made a profit or didn't make a profit. They did a job. They're giving you an invoice. You must pay the invoice no matter what. So if you are the person trying to be the boss, there is a cost to be the boss. If it were easy to be the boss, then everybody would be the boss, right? Everybody looks at the boss and says, "Oh, I wish I was a boss. I wish." Well, I would be. I wouldn't move so quickly in that assumption because there's a lot of pressure in that. And I like that. I like that show Landman because it does kind of illustrate that, right? They literally are solving 300-400 million dollar problems, and most people that would stress them out. That would freak them out. So to some extent, the mentality of an investor, which will ultimately make you the boss. If you're an investor, then you're gonna win long term, is that it requires a type of discipline and emotional intelligence that allows you to remain resilient during the difficult times. It requires a lot of courage and innovation and problem solving like crazy. This is why I would say black children, especially the boys. I think that boys and girls, all the black kids, really, all the kids. I say boys in particular because black boys are the ones getting hammered the worst in this economy. Um, should be trained on problem solving skill, and not just problem solving skill, but on emotional intelligence, so that when you're solving the problem, you're not spending all your energy freaking out about the problem. Like, I'll give you an example where wealth was lost because somebody freaked out about a problem instead of solving it. That coach in Michigan who had the job of a lifetime, who's making, 7 to 10 million dollars a year, who's having the affair with the lady that he works with. He's not the first person in power to sleep with somebody at work. Studies show that workplace relationships are very common. 25%, or actually, it might be more than 25% of all married people met their spouse at work, right? So workplace relationships, I don't care what you say, they're going to always exist. It's very natural for human. One of the biggest factors in human attraction, actually, I learned this from my psychology teacher in college. One of the biggest factors in human attraction is proximity. How close you are to somebody. If you see them every day and you're working on common tasks every day, then it's inevitable at some point somebody's going to notice if somebody's cute. Like she at some point she's going to notice that her coworker is 6'3" and very handsome. At some point he's going to notice that she's got this beautiful shape to her body. Right? Come on now, let's stop lying and pretending like this doesn't happen. But how you respond to that can vary. So with this guy, he runs into this scenario where he's taking a lot of chances because he's not just sleeping with the lady he works with. He's got all kinds of stuff going on. I think he overplayed his hand. Maybe he thought because I'm coaching Michigan, I can do whatever I want. And then what happens is that when things got bad, I think that what happened was she broke up with him. He starts freaking out. At least this is the story that they're reporting, but things are complex. The claim is that she broke up with him. He couldn't handle it. He couldn't emotionally handle it. So he starts bullying and intimidating her. But then again, sometimes people make up these, like, oh, I was a victim and whatever, right? White women are the biggest victims of everything, it seems like. But then again, maybe that's the case. Maybe he really was freaking out. So she then goes to the administration. So my speculation is that either she went to the administration because she was concerned and afraid that he was harassing her, or because she was angry at him for ending the relationship. One or the other, right? It seemed like there was something where things just kind of went wrong, and so he's dealt with this new issue where they then decide to fire him, and he makes it worse by spazzing out and showing up at her house with the knife, and then it becomes this crash out scenario that makes him unhireable for any significant job ever. I don't even think a high school would hire him. I don't care how good he is at football. They wouldn't even hire him as an assistant coach at a high school now, which in my view, if he had just been the coach who slept with a coworker and got released, oh, he'd have another great job, probably in a couple of years, right? At least as an assistant or something, because he's obviously good at football. But now you're looking at mental health, and you're like, okay, this guy doesn't have, the balance required to be a leader of anything or anyone. I wouldn't let him manage a Burger King now. And so my point is to say that when you're talking about situations like this, it really gets down to those two factors that I mentioned before. Uh, the ability to solve a problem and the ability to maintain your emotional balance while you solve the problem. Because all the energy you spend freaking out, panicking, and crying and screaming and going crazy, that energy does not help you get to the solution. And if anybody's really good at freaking out, crashing out, getting scared, getting depressed, or whatever, it's us. Like I think that we're trained to be hyper emotional about the issues that we face. And I get it. Emotions are very natural. You have to confront those. But there's some situations where you got to figure out how to keep it moving. And I think about this when I was teaching math at the University of Kentucky. I remember that there would be students who were so scared of word problems that if you gave them a word problem, they would freeze. They would freeze. It didn't matter what the problem was. You could literally say, you know, this cat has two apples. This other cat has three apples. How many total apples do the two cats have? And if you put it down as a word problem, they would freak out so bad that they couldn't even add two plus three because they would just freak out over the fact that it's a word problem and in their head they can't solve a word problem and oh my god, I'm not good at math and all these things you've been telling yourself, right? They're inherently going to become true because you keep repeating it to yourself. Your subconscious mind, remember my wife is an expert on the subconscious mind, so basically your subconscious mind, which is the part of your mind that really drives your behavior, it's the part you don't see but it's the biggest part of your brain. Your subconscious is like, okay, I'm bad at math. All right. And you say it again. I'm so bad at math. Okay. I'm bad at math. 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 The subconscious is taking notes. And so when you run into a math problem, the subconscious is like, well, I'm bad at math. So of course I can't get the answer to this question. So what you're doing is you're not just you're not just sort of what's the word, flooding your emotions to the point where it's going to undermine your logic, but also you've allowed hopelessness to enter into the equation. And so if you talk about any sort of investing, wealth building, or risk taking, a hopeless person who's emotionally flooded is going to be very bad at any of that. Because one of the things about wealth building is that it does require emotional stability and it does require you to find some way to hold on to your hope because your hope is what gets you through the dark times. Right? So if you quickly become hopeless and you quickly panic, then it's going to be really hard to become an investor because investors have to know how to keep their cool in really heavy, intense situations. They have to know little things like, well, this too shall pass. Right? That this is what, if you look at a lot of assets, you look at Bitcoin, for example. If I could go back in time and talk to, Boyce from 2010, I'd say, hey, dude, just go buy you 10 million Bitcoin when they come out. They'll be like half a penny or a quarter of a penny. Go buy about 10 million of those things, and it'll be worth $100 billion in 2025. Right? That's what I would tell them to do. And the other thing I would tell them to do is I would say, do not look at the price. Do not watch it. Do not watch the price. Do not pay attention to anything. Shut that off. Don't even look at it. Just go do something else for 15 years. And in 2024, not 2025, right? At 2024, it's going to be worth about $123,000. And at that point, you'll have $100 billion in wealth. I want you to then sell about 50 billion of the Bitcoin and put it into a diversified portfolio and then leave the other 60 billion in Bitcoin just in case it keeps growing or whatever. But the other 50 billion, I need you to get it out of there, put it into real estate, go buy you some businesses and stocks and whatever, become the majority shareholder in General Electric, whatever it is you want to do. But this is the plan. And the reason I would tell him to do it that way is because I would say, look, you're gonna get distracted. This thing is gonna crash like crazy, and there's gonna be times where people will lose hope, people will freak out, people will panic, and people are gonna sell out of panic. They call it panic selling. That's a very real thing. And so, in order to keep you emotionally balanced, I need you to stay focused. So, really, long-term investing is kind of the same way. This is the thing. I want you to understand investing, but I really don't want you to always be in the habit of watching your investments too much if it takes you to the point where you're constantly selling things or constantly reacting to short-term things that are happening in the portfolio. It's just like if I'm married, I can't, one thing I learned about being a husband is you gotta be cool as a cute. You gotta I'm telling you. I mean, I'm not trying to say men and women are more emotional than the other because I don't want to get into that gender conversation. But man, oh buddy, if you overreact to every little thing and you're married, you're not going to be married very long because there's a lot of stuff you could potentially overreact to. So I got a house full of very interesting and intelligent women, and I'm telling you, sometimes the mood swings are heavy. And again, I hope I didn't offend anybody by saying that, but you know I'm telling the truth. Stop acting like I'm lying. And so ultimately, investing's the same way. I'm invested in the family, just like you're invested in the stock. You just say, okay, well, this is going to be a tough day, but I'm invested. This is me. This is where I live. Okay. So anyway, let me share something else with you. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this or not. Somebody said Cass's voice is in the danger zone at least once a month. Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, yeah. Right, and my mouth will get me in trouble, so I'm gonna stop talking while I'm ahead. I hope I can still be loved. All right, so here's one more thing too. One thing that we forget sometimes is that there's a lot of wisdom in the Bible, and so just as a tribute to my mother, who was a big woman of faith, I created something called Faith and Finances, where we took a bunch of lessons from the Bible, financial lessons from the Bible, and put that together as a curriculum. It doesn't cost much because I want as many people as possible to have access to it. And if you go to robinwatkins.com, you can find it. I think lifetime access is very inexpensive, like $49 or something like that, and you can share it with your whole family. And it's got basically just a ton of these economic lessons from the Bible and these sort of enjoyable trainings that you can go through. And just something I shared the link in the chat, but also if you don't see the link in the chat, you can go to robinwatkins.com. That was my mother's name, and that was just something I put together just to keep her memory alive. All right, and so one more thing. Let's do one more quick trip. I want to show y'all something. I have another Instagram page. It's like my secret page. Well, it's not a secret, but it's my page. And this really was interesting. I thought this was so interesting. My wife sent me this today, and it had to do with this guy who met a guy in prison, and they called him Mighty Mouse because he's like this little short, stocky guy, and he ended up and so Mighty Mouse had this really complex financial scheme, and it's so funny. It's so hilarious. But anyway, let me pull that. This is my backup Instagram is Dr. Boyce Money. I have to have a backup because I don't know if y'all know this. I have 223,000 followers on my Instagram, but I actually was up to like 500,000, and then they deleted my page, so I had to start from zero again and go up. So I guess before it, I guess if nothing bad had happened, I'd have 700 or 800,000 or something. So, but it's fine. It's life. But anyway, so I created a backup page. And so here is the backup, Dr. Boyce Money. That's the backup. So anyway, so that's me just holding up a sign that says either take the risk or risk working for someone who took the chance you were afraid to take. So one of the things that you have to decide is what do you want to do? Do you want to play it safe or do you want to take a chance or make an investment? And typically, the people that you work for are people who took a chance that others weren't quite willing to take in many cases. The fairy tale, the myth is that they were all given this power and somebody just hooked them up with a silver spoon. And sometimes that does happen, but in many cases, you have millions of people who started with very little, who took chances, who made sacrifices others weren't willing to make. They burned the midnight oil when others were partying. They sacrificed when others were spending their money, and they got to be the boss. So, pay the cost to be the boss. If you want to do that, then teach that to your kids. It's a trade-off. Everything's a trade. But I'm gonna play this video. Let me know if you can hear it. I'm sharing my audio, but I thought this is really fascinating story. So here it goes. Oh no. You know what? I messed up. I wanted to play it. I can't play it because I just realized I messed up. I actually accidentally didn't put the audio in. I'm gonna fix it and I'll play it tomorrow. But it's basically about this guy who created this really complex financial scheme where he was I mean it was really, really detailed where in fact, I'm gonna try to find it. My wife, dang it, I can't. You know what? I cannot. I'm gonna play it tomorrow. But basically, what the story is, I'll give you the precursor to it. He was in prison and he was explaining how he made money. And the way he made money was he would go to car dealerships and he had a whole scam where he would pretend like he was pre-approved, and they'd call the bank, but the bank was really his girlfriend, and she'd ask a bunch of questions, and then they would end up giving the approval, and he would go to another state to get a VIN number and all this other stuff, right? It was really complex, right? So like so complex that I was sitting here trying to follow along. I could not follow along with it because it was just too complicated for me to even get it. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I have a PhD in finance and I don't even understand exactly what he was doing. But here's the thing. So what was funny about it was the way he got caught was he didn't get caught by the cops. He actually got caught by well, where by the FBI when he got into an argument with his girlfriend. And his girlfriend got mad and decided to call the FBI. And so when that happened, that's what got him put sent to prison. And so I remember saying, I said, well, I guess so. My advice would be number one. I said clearly the guy was a genius, and he never really truly got caught directly. I said so. I guess my advice would be number one. If you are that smart, don't use your talent for good and not evil. Right? Don't commit crime. But if you do commit the crime, keep it to yourself. Because I'm not just a finance guy, but also I'm the son of a cop. And I remember my father telling me how many crimes they would solve because of pillow talk. Some guy would kill somebody, and then he'd be laying there with his girlfriend, and he'd say, "Yeah, back 5 years ago, I had to shoot him," whatever. And then something happens in the relationship, and the girl calls the police, and she's giving them everything. And so I guess that would say either keep it to yourself or just understand the risk of investing in people, right? That literally, when you decide to connect with a person and invest in that way, you're giving them a tremendous amount of power. This creates something in finance that we often call the moral hazard problem. And so now this person they have something on you, so you can't discard them the way you might have thought you could, right? Like the Michigan coach. The minute he decided to lay down with that lady, she had a lot of power. And if he was strategic about it, he would understand that, okay, I made this decision to invest in this woman in a certain way, right? And because I've made this investment, now she has a certain amount of leverage and power over me, which means I can't just discard her like she's just some employee, right? No, no, no. When they slept together, she became the boss in a certain context, right? And so what this says to me from a logical standpoint, from an investing standpoint, is that you better make damn sure that you are okay with making this investment, and you better not be sloppy about it, because if you got this one over here, this one over here, this one over here, and this one over here, and this one over here, then you got 6 or 7 women that could destroy you and take everything that you have. So again, I'm not anti-sex, I'm not anti-relationships. I think people should do what they want to do, but you have to think about it as what it is. It's an investment. When you have something to lose and you let somebody in your space in a certain way, the same principles that apply to investing your last $1 million into somebody's company, those same principles apply to investing your life into another human being. When I married my wife, I went through the same due diligence process that I go through when it comes to investing. The only difference was I went through it extra long because I had to figure out, like, okay, what's this going to look like? What kind of person am I dealing with? Am I dealing with somebody who is going to be fair? Am I dealing with somebody who's going to be abusive? How does this person treat her worst enemies? Right? I watched how she treated her ex-husband. Because if she had been abusive to him and nasty to him and vindictive toward him, there's no way on earth I would have signed up, because I would have been like, well, if I become your ex-husband, I don't want you attacking me unfairly. I get it if I did something bad to you, if I hurt you in some way, then all bets are off. But but all I want is fairness. Like, just don't be out here lying and being deliberately harmful to another party, because that's not a good investment, right? That's not a smart use of my resource, which is my life. Your life is the ultimate resource. So if you understand investing, then you'll eventually look at everything as an investment. The time you're spending sitting here listening to me is an investment, because you could use this time for a million other things. Your love and your body and all these things are an investment. Your money's certainly an investment, but your money is literally the probably the least valuable investment that you'll ever make. I think if I had a choice between losing a bunch of money in a stock versus investing 10 years in a person and having that go bad, I'd rather lose money on the stock all day. So these principles of investing are universal. It's all about, I mean, really, economics is pretty much defined by the allocation of scarce resources. Finance is nothing more than applied economics. And what it pretty much means is that capital, another principle is that capital must be put to its best available use and its most efficient use. What does that mean? Let me explain that. So, what that would mean is that if I've got something that's valuable, I'm going to be very conscious of how I use that thing. I'm going to be very thoughtful. If I get up in the morning and I've got 8 free hours of time, I'm not going to be out here wasting time. If I got a couple of dollars in my bank account, I'm not going to be throwing that money around and wasting it. If I know I'm young and cute and I can get married and all that, then I'm gonna carefully think through any potential suitors, right? You know, you're young and pretty, or you're a man and got a little bit of resources or whatever. Like, you have to think through these things, because if you notice, all you got to do is look around and you'll see so many people that didn't think it through, that invested in an unconscious way, and you look at how much they lost, and some of them lost things they can never get back. So that's the rule of investing. I'm sorry about that video. I thought the video was going to work. I'm gonna post it again. That backup Instagram is Dr. Boyce Money, so feel free to go and check that out. All right. So one more thing, just a reminder. I'm gonna leave this Zoom open for a minute. Chanel is in there. She has the link to the coin cohort that starts January 8th. And so if you want to go through 6 weeks of options with us, from A to Z. It's really a lot of fun. We cover all the strategies and everything else. When you walk away, you'll be good, and you can share it with your family. So feel free to click that link. And then also, Chanel can you tell me the date we're going to South Africa? It is South Africa, right? It's May. We're going to take a group trip out of the country. So if you want to go, it's May. Okay, yeah, May 14th. Thank you, Kendall. Kendall, I know Kendall knows, because Kendall, I think, Kendall, did you go to Egypt with us, or was it Ghana, or? Kendall and Karen are everywhere. I get it. They're at the convention every year, and I love them both. And their son they have really smart children. It's not just their son. From what I understand, they have multiple children that are doing amazing things. And you'd be impressed when I meet a lot of you and you tell me what your families are doing. You've got some people in this room who are highly accomplished, who are doing multi-million-dollar business, who have children that are literally ready to conquer and take over the next generation. So one of the things that we're going to do in the convention is we're really going to try to implement that at a deep level. We're going to have literally a section of the convention for the 20 somethings that I'm not going to even plan that. I'm going to literally let them do their thing, because I really want them to feel welcome to be a part of what we're doing. I don't want them to feel like this is something that, for only because I looked at the survey data, and a lot of you that come in here every day are over the age of 35, and I don't want the 25-year-olds to be afraid or to think that we don't like them or judge them. But I think that it has to be what's the word, a recursive ecosystem. It has to be give and take, right? You have to learn from your elders. You got to respect your parents and grandparents and what they know. And I think I would encourage the grandparents and grandparents. You can learn from young people. They can tell you a little bit about what the future holds and what's happening in the areas that we did things wrong. Reciprocity is another good term. Thank you, Calvin. And so that's going to happen at the convention. So a couple things. One, if you want to go to South Africa with us, just go to b1voyages.com. That's b the number one voyages.com. Jay Cameron's team at Maximum Impact Travel is assisting us with these trips. We went to Egypt, we went to Ghana. It was a lot of fun. We're going to go to South Africa next. So b1voyages.com. And then also, if you want to come to the convention, which is going to be the weekend of October 16th in Jersey City, right near Manhattan, it's a 5-minute train ride from the city. You can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. I'm very proud of the All Black National Convention. We are in year 11, and we funded ourselves. It was hard as heck, but we fund ourselves, and we are able to have a type of freedom that a lot of other conventions and institutions can't have. And also, when the DEI stuff happened, Trump came in and all the DEI stuff disappeared. A lot of these other big events kind of deflated because they were sort of built on this artificial power, right? Some government agency pumps $3 million into your conference and they make it look amazing. But then when they deflate and they take that money away, you end up seeing what's really there. So it's like the difference between an athlete on steroids versus one who trained really hard and just took the difficult route. there's a sturdiness there, right? So we weren't really affected at all. In fact, our last convention was the biggest that we ever had, and it was totally packed out and really amazing. It's a wonderful experience, and I'm very proud of that because in my mind, I have a framework that I hope to communicate with you of what a solid black institution really looks like. Like, what does it really look like? I don't think it's built on the Democrats or the Republicans writing checks for you, or the state government stepping in to save you, or corporations funding everything you're doing. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you are beholden to the people who pay the bills. It's very hard to get around that. And there's really no replacement for real power. You can have the proximity to power, but proximity to power is not the same as having real power, right? This lamp that is plugged into the wall does not have the same amount of power as the wall. So you better hope that the wall lights the lamp, because if the wall ever decides that I don't care about the lamp, or I'm going to cut him off, or I'm going to punish him, then all the power belongs to the wall and the outlet. It doesn't belong to the lamp, right? And really, you think about it, the wall, even the wall doesn't have the actual power, right? It really comes from the power company, but you get the point. And so it's not just, everybody spends so much time trying to be the man, and I'm not really interested in the man. I'm interested in the man behind the man, and then the man behind the man behind the man, right? Like, I wasn't interested in Diddy. I was more interested in Clive Davis and this whole ecosystem that was created that runs the entertainment space, where they truly are becoming billionaires, and they are to the point where they're almost untouchable, and they're doing all these operations that are so sinister that we don't even know that they exist. That's real power, and it takes time to build it. So anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you. Thank you, Chanel, for helping out with everything. Thank you for sharing your B1 story. And I'm going to leave this Zoom open if you want to talk to Chanel about joining Coin or anything like that. If you don't see it, you can go to drboycecoin.com. That's the URL to join the Coin cohort for January 8th. All right, so have a good day, guys. God bless you, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.